What the Texans have accomplished and why Kenyon Green might not have left us after all. Let's go inside the locker room. Plus, is Nico way too focused on the D-line, or is he just getting what he pays for? Let's go inside the locker room.
Yeah, it's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube.
Free agency has come and gone. A legend has left us. And what exactly have the Texans accomplished here in free agency? And did a case study kind of lead me in the direction of a draft wish? It is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. Shout out to everyone who's also rode along today on SNL. Be sure to subscribe to that channel as well with myself and Cody Stoots. We got you covered. Draft day is going to be insane. We got some good stuff planned for that. So be on the lookout for that. I'm going to start this off by just asking, what have the Texans accomplished this week? What exactly has been accomplished by the Houston Texans? And free agency is always a fun time because people starve for football. Like people starve for football. It's America's game. And whenever your season ends, assuming that it was a decent season, you still kind of have that taste in your mouth, maybe throughout the entire course of your life. Like a lot of true fans can kind of go back and revisit the feeling that they had when there was a certain loss. So even after a lot of success. So when you see the way that the Texans season ended and you see that there were some clear glaring holes that they need to fix, as soon as there's an opportunity to fix them, you want them to immediately be fixed. So that's why we have the reaction of free agency. Despite the fact that free agency is not really the team that wins free agency is often the team that is releasing players 2 years later. And that's just kind of the reality of what free agency is. But there's always passion. There's always intensity. And sometimes there's opportunities to significantly make improvements. Sometimes there's opportunities to re-sign your guys. But there's always a passionate reaction to free agency. And sometimes people get frustrated because all of the problems don't appear to be solved. And I think that's what's happened here. And I get a kick out of the media types that make fun of the reaction because that's why you have jobs, brother. Like I saw Breer making fun of the Patriots beat reporters for going and covering the thing. And then I see like some media, we're overreacting to free agency. That's why you have a gig, brother. That's why you're able to do it. So let's just kind of go through what the Texans have accomplished. And I think one thing is very, very clear. They have an elite secondary. They were on the edge of maybe even being able to fill anyone in that other safety spot and still potentially have an elite secondary because of the arrow pointing up on their three guys. But they added a guy that's tough as hell. They added a guy that makes plays. They added a guy that brings another element, and they added a guy that's battle tested and can be a perfect complement to what Kalen Bullock is. So they have created an elite secondary. Now, was that one of the biggest needs heading into free agency? I would say that safety was a need, but I don't think it was one of the biggest needs that they had heading into free agency. One of the biggest needs that they did have was wide receiver. And I think they improved their wide receiver room. Now, is it still perhaps one of the most unimpressive wide receiver rooms in the league? I would say it's damn sure in the bottom half, especially with the question marks that come with Christian Kirk the last 2 seasons. But it was by far the worst before. All you had was Nico Collins, John Mechie, and Xavier Hutchinson. And you added Christian Kirk, and you added Watson, you added Berrios, you just added bodies. but you improved it slightly. You still got some work to do. You still got to figure something out. So you did that. Then we get to the source of frustration for most fans. We get to the offensive line. The offensive line was completely wiped away. Now, on the surface and on the outside, you look at this and you say, damn, they got rid of 3 starters. They need to replace 3 starters. Oh, my God. Look, they got rid of 1 starter. Laramie Tunsil was their starter, and he was their best lineman. They got rid of that. We don't have to revisit all the other stuff about Laramie Tunsil and what we've been talking about all year long that other people are talking about now. But they got rid of 1 starter. Nobody looked at Kenyon Green as a starter. He got benched last year, which he might have something in common with the guy that they brought in today. We'll get to that in a second. But nobody thought Shaq Mason was a starter either. Nobody anticipated he was going to be here. Matter of fact, people were pissed off that they put him back in the starting lineup against Kansas City. So from a local perspective, getting rid of Kenyon Green and Shaq Mason should not move the needle. The Tunsil thing does. But I think what often happens in local stuff and all that is whether you're aware or not, sometimes just the national energy kind of rubs off on you. And they don't follow the Texans that closely. They don't need to. There's probably 20 other teams that move the needle more than the Texans for them, for the national folks. They just know the offensive line sucks. But it's almost being treated as if the Texans just randomly got rid of 3 starters. The Tunsil thing was a bomb. Kenyon Green, we knew nothing about what he was going to be. And Shaq Mason, nobody wanted his big ass here anyways. But when you hear national people, it's, oh, the worst offensive line in the league. They got rid of 3 starters. And it kind of bleeds into the locals who should probably know better, especially if you're watching this channel and you're watching Stoots' channel and you're watching Seth's channel. Like, you should have a better idea about that. They got rid of 2 guys who nobody wanted to see start, and quite frankly, shouldn't have even started at the end of last season when they put a depth chart together. So the offensive line is still a problem. But it's not outside of Tunsil. It's not like they just they have to do some shuffling. If there were a starting lineup to fill outside of Tunsil, Kenyon Green and Shaq Mason wouldn't have factored into that. So that's just kind of where they're at on the offensive line. So they have added some bodies on the offensive line. That's all I can really say. They've added some bodies. DJ Amazing says, Houston, we got a problem. Yeah. Know about that line, man. That's the most outside thing. I saw that CJ Gardner-Johnson said that. I thought that was funny. But they've added some bodies on the offensive line. I'll get to Jon Weeks in a sec. I actually talked to Jon today. So I talked to Weeksy today. I've been kind of laying low because I know this has kind of been a tough time for him. But I talked to Jon Weeks today. I'll give you an update on how Weeksy's doing. Full disclosure, like, ever since I got here, like, every once in a while, like, if I say something, Weeks will call me out on it, or his wife Amanda would call me out on it, and they've always been real good to us. One time when we were doing a show, we bullied him into giving one of his extra grills, and we actually auctioned off the grill at a remote. One of his best friends married one of my best friends in elementary school. She played softball at Baylor, and when he was at Baylor, they ended up getting married. So I know Jon Weeks a little bit. I talked to him, and I'll give you an update on Weeksy a little bit later, for sure. Shout out to Primetime V. Says you just picked up my dinner. Now it's time to tune in the show. What'd you get, man? Let me know what you're grubbing on. I've been eating a lot healthier as of late, but I like to live vicariously, and I know Primetime V likes to eat quick. So I want to know what he's going with. I would never move to the Bay Area, brother. Hell nah. Wouldn't do that. But they've added bodies on the O-line. Let's get the updated list of what Nick Caserio has done for the agency. So they already added Laken Tomlinson, 1 year for $4.25 million. Just always there, always ready to go. Professional, maybe a good influence. Ed Ingram, who is basically the Minnesota version of Kenyon Green. He's in his third year. He was disappointing, and he got benched midway through the season. Tell me if you've heard that story before. Now, the reason that I think this is kind of different, and I get the jokes kind of write themselves when you get rid of two really crappy guards and you bring in, by a lot of statistical measures, two really crappy guards. I get the jokes. From the Tomlinson standpoint, the guy's reliable. The guy's played on some good teams. And having that kind of guy as like depth, I don't think is bad. And he started a hell of a lot of games. The Ingram thing is different because while it is very similar to Kenyon Green, the biggest difference is that change of scenery is what those guys often need. Change of scenery is often what those guys need. And that is what the hope is for Kenyon Green. It wasn't going to work here. And I'm assuming that's what they assume the hope is for Ed Ingram. And before the Kenyon Green trade, we were saying, well, maybe you find someone who has the equivalent of Kenyon Green and you get their Kenyon Green and they get your Kenyon Green. And they did. They got Ed Ingram. He might suck. But the change of scenery is what the sales pitch is. That's what the sales pitch is. We'll do a mock tomorrow. We'll do a mock tomorrow. We'll do that. I got you. Mock draft Friday. We'll do that. Because I already have a draft crush that I'll get to in a sec. But yeah, the difference between bringing in a Kenyon Green and exiting is that the change of scenery is what they need. Like Mekhi Becton was not going to find his way with the Jets. Kenyon Green wasn't going to find his way here, and Ed Ingram in Minnesota. Now, 60% of the time, these guys probably end up sucking in their next destination. Maybe even higher than that, higher percentage than that. And you never hear from them. 6th round pick next year is what it cost you. But maybe there's that chance that he flips it and he's a decent player. Don't know. So you've added bodies on the offensive line. I actually think you can make a case that they might have improved at guard. I don't even think that's hard to make. Now they didn't get the guys that a lot of people wanted, and if those guys are good, they're going to look really stupid because they like to spend all their money on the Jordans, aka the pass rushers. But I think they've actually perhaps improved at guard, and they still suck. I'm not saying it's good. Tackle, they obviously got issues. We're talking about Titus Howard playing tackle right now. Not lovely. The other thing that's happened, and I guess this can be a rich got richer type of thing, rich get richer type of joint. Demeek builds elite edge depth behind an elite edge duo. Investing more than anyone at the edge position is not enough, so you get a $5 million contract, you get a $5 million contract, you get a $5 million contract, you get a $9.5 million contract. Demeek loves to build that edge depth. But my God, has he done that? The return on investment is not the issue, though, with that. The issue is the give and take. I have zero doubt that they're going to maximize what they pay for on the D-line. There's zero doubt about that. Sometimes you got to give and take, though, to maybe sprinkle some money in other areas. It's not an endless cap. So that's going to be the thing. It's not the ROI. And we've watched them with the offensive line. There's been no ROI. Return on investment. But the give and take. But you can acknowledge that Demeek has built edge depth behind the elite edge duo of Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. And remember, Demeek, no offense yet. Till further notice, it's Deke. Just like Dirk Nowitzki early in his career, no D. It's Demeek, no O. I wonder what's up with Danielle Hunter right now and what he's thinking. Signed a 2-year deal last year. Made the Pro Bowl. All these other edge guys are getting paid. He's kind of sitting back and watching that. Like, is Danielle Hunter someone you want to extend, or is Danielle Hunter the next good player that you're going to have to say goodbye to? Because we've talked about this before Tunsil was traded. Now it seems like everybody else is acknowledging it. But we said you're going to have to say goodbye to good players eventually, and we talked about Tunsil for weeks. Y'all know that. We talked about it. Stingley, CJ, all that, you're going to have to say goodbye. They said goodbye. And now you're kind of hearing that sentiment echoed. We're proactive around here. But I do wonder where Danielle Hunter factors in. Because he's got to be seeing these guys get paid and thinking, man, I still got a little bit left in the tank. I think he's got more than a little bit. So do you think Danielle Hunter's pleased with his situation? We see these players all the time. They sign the contracts. They get released by the team. And then a lot of times they sign the contract and they get unhappy with the contract a short time later. It's the give or take. It's the business. You understand both POVs. But I just wonder where Danielle Hunter is in this. I also wonder where Demeek is. Like, Demeek seems to like to rotate D linemen. Like, do we eventually see, like, is Danielle Hunter a bye-bye next year? I'm going to have to pay CJ and Will. Maybe you develop someone. Y'all bring in a lot of D linemen. I wonder, like, the curious case of Danielle Hunter, it doesn't seem like it gets talked about enough, but I do wonder what Danielle Hunter's mindset is right now and how exactly he's feeling. Cool Chris says, Caserio and Nico saw what Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs' Achilles heel was, a great pass rush. I mean, that's been twice. I guess they could have seen that. I would also say that the Eagles had a complete roster. Their offense wasn't bad. Like, they also had a really good offensive line. Like, I know we tend to focus on what happened with Mahomes. They had a good offensive line. They have one of the best receiver duos in the league. They have a top 7-6 tight end. They had the best running back that had a historic season. I know the D-line shined. But they also had some pretty good players around, I would say. Shout out to Cool Chris for coming through. Maybe Ingram connects with Deculus and they both bounce back. Yeah, don't count on Austin Deculus. That would be a lot. Primetime V says he got Burger King. It's a good choice, my friend. Very underrated. Not appreciated here. Texans get real snooty when you start gassing up Burger King. They start, Whataburger's better. Burger King can go in, man. Get you the double Texas Whopper, onion rings instead of fries. Maybe throw in a little nugs, maybe some chicken fries in there. Some of that BBQ sauce, some of that ranch. Sign me up for that. Get down with that BK. Brandon has a hot take. This is dangerous. I probably shouldn't have brought this to the forefront. Brandon on the chat says, Ingram is a test for the OC and O-line coach by Caserio and D'Amico to show they can get a crappy guy to improve. If he does and leaves at year end, they can get a comp pick for him. I mean, I don't think it's a test. I think they're trying to make their offensive line better and trying to see. I don't think that's not a hot take. I wouldn't say. I mean, you can take out the hot take. There's nothing hot about that. I don't think it's like a let's see what happens. But yeah, they want to. They obviously want to kick the tires on the guy and see if they can get something out of him. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, there's nothing hot about that. And if he develops into a good player, maybe he's not leaving. Zachary says, what are your thoughts on possibly moving Howard to left guard, putting Blake Fisher was serviceable last year at the right tackle spot, then picking up Mekhi Becton, the slotted guard. Did you mean move Titus to left tackle? I'm assuming you meant left tackle. Titus at tackle scares me. I mean, if he needs to really if he wants to honor Laramie Tunsil, come in looking like Laramie Tunsil at camp. Like, you're gonna have to. You're gonna like the way that Laramie Tunsil came into camp the last few years. Like, you gotta look like that. You gotta trim up. You gotta be ready to go. You gotta be hungry. I think Titus Howard is an easy guy to. I don't think Titus Howard is someone that they're going to lose. I think Titus Howard is going to buy into what they're selling. I think we could start to see the best of Titus Howard. This might be the best thing to happen to him, quite honestly. He's had some embarrassing moments. He stripped the quarterback last year and then said he didn't. I mean, we all saw it. We know what you were trying to do. We see it. We've seen it a few times. But yeah, left tackle, Titus Howard. I don't have any confidence in Titus Howard on the offensive line. I do have confidence that he might be able to put his best foot forward. But as far as like confidence in Titus Howard, no, that's weird. Like who in their right mind would have confidence in Titus Howard at tackle right now that watches the Texans? Like, unless you're just like gonna support them no matter what they do, which is fine. I don't frown upon it. I'm not going to tell you how to fam, but I just don't know how you can watch Titus Howard and what we've seen from him and months after the season be talking about, okay, is this guy going to be your starting left guard? All right, Fisher's your tackle, and then you have Tunsil. And then all of a sudden Tunsil's gone, and you talk yourself into feeling like no nerves about Titus Howard at left or right tackle? Hell no. Like, I don't know how anyone can feel that way about him. That just can't be a thing. Bacon King does go hard all day. I agree. It's a lot though, man. I don't like the bacon too much. Burger with no cheese, okay? Rodeo Burger from BK goes in. They used to have like the one that it was kind of like a Big Mac knockoff that went hard, man, and they got rid of it. But I was on that like crazy. I when I was drinking more sodas, it was just straight Diet Coke. What's the bev? But I'll mix the a lot of times they have the red and the pink. They have the red whatever, and then they have the pink lemonade. So I get the pink lemonade and mix a little bit of the red, maybe drop a little Sprite in there for the drink. Can go iced tea. Their iced tea is not great. So I'll go red, pink with a splash of Sprite at the top. Who would I draft at 25? I have a dream about 25 that we'll get to in a second. I have a dream. Saw Titus trip over the 45-yard. It wasn't good last year. But I think he's going to be a lot more reliable. Uro says, Landry, you've said it. Nick can't evaluate offensive linemen. That worries. It's not even about that he can't. It's that he hasn't. He hasn't. In every element, he has not. So, yeah, you should be a little bit nervous. And what's really going to suck is if Blake Fisher can't play. Because they started the tackle run with Blake Fisher. That's what's scary. I like Blake Fisher. I'm a Blake Fisher fan. I think he'll figure it out. But that's what's scary is that you started that tackle run. It's not like guys were gone. You had 7 guys to evaluate, and you went with Fisher. We'll see what it looks like. Italo says, stop making compelling arguments about how bad our OL can be. I need Kool-Aid. Look, you got better on the inside. I think you got better getting rid of Laramie Tunsil. I think that mindset was poisonous. I've said, and this is not new. Y'all watch this channel. We've said it 100 times. How many times did I say, what's the opposite of iron sharpens iron? We talked about the pickup reference. So this is not new. This is not an after the fact. That's not how it's going to roll. But I think the offensive line can be they can figure something out. They can figure something out. They won 11 games with Julian Davenport in 2018. Like, it can be a cohesive unit. Is it going to be great? I wouldn't bet on that. Do we need to see Blake Fisher, Patterson, like the guys that they already have, get better? Yes, we absolutely need to see that. All I'm saying is, I don't know how you can feel confident at Titus Howard at tackle. I can feel confident that he's going to put his best foot forward, and maybe that makes me feel a little bit better. But if at the snap of a finger, all of a sudden, you're shaping your lips to say, oh, Titus is going to be a great tackle. What? What did we watch the last few years? For a while, like what did we watch? That's all I'm saying. Does that mean that there's like some sort of it's impossible? No, it's not impossible. Not impossible at all. On the soup, swarming the soup. Shout out to the soup. Tomato soup, gumbo, all that. You ain't never hate. Swarm. MHW Nation asks about Hayden Connor from the Horns. He's from Katy, isn't he? Is he from? Tell me that is Hayden Connor from Katy, or did I make that up? I think he is. Tell me in the chat if I'm right. I think he's a Katy kid. Hayden Connor is, I think Hayden Connor and Majors are going to be guys that are going to be slept on, and I think they're going to end up being good NFL players from the interior of the Texans line. Like right now, we're talking about the tackles, but I think Jake Majors is a guy that's kind of like Jared Patterson-like, but a little bit better. That might be like a day 3 guy that ends up just staying in the NFL for 10 years. And I could see Majors doing that as well. I think he's going to make a roster. This offensive line, they all kind of came in together. They were kind of what started this Sark thing. So I like him, and I like Majors. I don't know when they go. I don't know if you can like completely depend on them to solve your issues, but I like their interior guys, and I actually like Banks too, although he's kind of getting dissected like a damn science project right now. But I think these guys got a lot of potential to be able to stay in the league for a while. Shout out to Scotty Davis. He says, I don't have a problem with him blowing up the O-line. Scotty, how old are your girls, by the way? Because mine's just now 19 months. She colored on the wall today. She's getting a little crazy. She's opening doors. She's going in the garage. Like, it looks like if those are your girls, how old are they? What do I have to look forward to? Weeks has 2 girls too, and I always like kind of scout that out. But he says, I don't have a problem with him blowing up the O-line. My concern is the lack of quality additions, and the draft won't answer all the questions on that O-line. I agree wholeheartedly. Sometimes you just can't fix it. Like sometimes you just don't have the assets. Sometimes the free agency isn't built to where you can address it. And sometimes especially when you're sitting at 25 in the draft, you kind of find yourself in no man's land, especially if you have a glaring need. So I agree with that. I guess the hope would be that they're just so much better coached, and their ultimate strengths can complement their weaknesses, complementary football, and maybe they can be able to overcome that. I mean, everyone talks about, well, you won a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer. You won a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer. Oh, Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl. Yeah, well, they had elite defense. Offense wasn't great. You know, we always point to the example, well, you can win a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer. So then you point to some crappy-ass quarterback and you say, well, if you can win a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer, you can win one with that guy. That wasn't why they won the Super Bowl. So I think complementary football is really going to have to be a thing. They seem to be heavily invested in special teams. They're also heavily invested in defense. And the offense is going to have to be coached as well as the defense and special teams. That's the other thing about this. And that's the other thing that's wild is we don't know about Nick Caley. But I think it's safe to say DeMeco Ryans is a really good defensive coach. And Frank Ross is a really good special teams coach. I know last year wasn't his best year, but they weren't awful. Wasn't as good as we've been used to, but they were a top 2 DVOA team, I think 3 years with Frank Ross, even when they were shitty. So there's definitely like a lot of question marks on the O-line, but I'll put it this way. And this is the best way I can put it through all this rambling. If you had the equivalent of the Texans offensive line on the defensive side of the ball on the D-line, I think we would feel confident that DeMeco Ryans would be able to get the most of it. Now, the counter to that would be, well, then why don't they invest more here and less there? That's conversation. I can't really answer that question. But we've seen times where they've had all of their linebackers out and the linebackers go out there and it's not even an issue. We've seen them without a corner and the corner kind of holds his own. So as much of a concern as it is personnel-wise, if they're not coached better, then I don't even think they're personnel dependent. And I think we saw that with Bobby Slowick, where in 2023, the offensive line was just completely shuffling in Strausser, and they were better than they were when it was consistent and they had continuity. And at the start of the season, for as much as we talk about the Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs injuries, they were never really humming on offense. They were okay. They were never really humming. They were never really on the same page. They were never gelling. It never really got going that much. It was better, but it was never humming. So I don't even know that they were personnel dependent. I think it was just average no matter what. So we'll see how much better they're coached. But I am with you. The opportunity of being able to figure that out is crazy. Damn, Scott's got 17, 16, and 14-year-olds. Good Lord, brother. Is that easier or more difficult than the 2, 3-year-old brains? Because we're trying to have another pretty soon. Goodness gracious, man. You got the high school drama. Shout out to Scott. Jake says you and Cody should both do a draft. It would be fun to see the different versions the two of y'all have. Yeah, he's probably going to go O-line first round. I'm not. He's probably going to go O-line first round. We'll do that. We'll figure that out tomorrow on SNL, see what Cody wants to do. Shout out to everyone that's subscribed to SNL. Be sure to like this video and be sure to subscribe to SNL. S&L Texans Talk. Popping. Already about 3,500 deep in less than 3 months. Raphael says, second annual Landry O'Brien / Cody Easterby mock draft. Okay, so I'm Bill O'Brien and Cody's Easterby. It's fair. Cody can be Easterby. I'll be B.O.B. I got that. Kind of got the chin a little bit. I'm losing a little weight, but yeah, I'll be B.O.B. I'll be butt chin. I like Bill. As a guy, not as a coach or a king. It would also be harder for Titus to strip CJ from a tackle spot. So that's a good thing. I think he was playing tackle when he did that. Am I wrong? I think he was actually at tackle when he did that. Don't quote me on that. Go back and look, but I think he might have been. Will we get a Stoots and Locker draft day live stream? You bet your ass you will. It's gonna be a marathon. We will definitely do that. There's no doubt about that. Figure that out. If Slowick was still here, let's say another year, would the same OL be here? I really don't know. I think that's a good question. I'm starting to buy into the Popovich hype, though. I've heard he's kind of a hardo. So I'm kind of buying into this O-line coach, where he comes from. Some will say, well, he was the assistant O-line coach. Do you think the assistant O-line coach really gets to call shots? I don't think so. At all. Scott says it's easier. Also got a 22-year-old son. Good Lord. Just be present. I'm present. Dads are super important in the development of grounded children. I'm 44 now, so no more for me. Though. Dude, you got started early, brother. So you had one at 22, and then you had it. God, y'all just went in. Good for Scott. He's almost a free man. Herman says he was a defensive tackle. Oh, you're talking about Titus Howard when he stripped him? Yeah. That was a rough one. Rough that he tried to deny it, too. That was a rough look for him when he stripped him and then denied it. That was rough. Really rough. So I've laid out all this Cooper Kupp data. And I don't know if y'all saw it or not, but we kind of talked about the success that the Patriots had with 2 slot receivers and the fact that the only thing that kind of stopped that attempt at having multiple slot receivers was the fact that they transitioned to 2 tight ends. But I tweeted it out today, just kind of the thoughts, and I did a video earlier today, but the basis of it was Cooper Kupp can fit here, but if you think he's washed, then can't push back on that. And I think Cody Stoots came to the same conclusion. And I think this is probably good news to a lot of people. I think the main thing to take away from this data is if your favorite wide receiver in the draft does a lot of his primary work or some of his best work is done in the slot, I don't think you have to dismiss him because Christian Kirk's here. Because not only have Caserio and Kaylee had backgrounds in multiple areas where 2 slot receivers has worked out, it's worked out at an elite level. And furthermore, when they're both on the field, it's a dangerous thing. And when one of them goes down, the other one steps up and completely elevates his play. You can go check that out at Landry Locker, or just check out the previous video that I put up this afternoon. But I did all this with Cooper Kupp in mind. And it was centered around the fact that Ian Rappaport said that he still thought he was in play with the Texans. But I can understand the counter argument to Cooper Kupp. That can't be disputed. I mean, Cooper Kupp in his prime doesn't hit the market like this. Like, people are dying to trade for Cooper Kupp in his prime. It's 145 catches in a season. That's a Super Bowl MVP. Like, we all know how good Cooper Kupp is or was. But you can have 2 slot receivers. And that's why, like Cody Stoots, the Kupp data has kind of led me to where I'm in on Ibuka now. I'm in on Ibuka. They talk about how Ibuka is kind of like a slot guy. I've heard the name Amon-Ra St. Brown mentioned, and I'm like, okay, that's a lot. I've heard that he does his work like JSN. Y'all know I'm a JSN guy. And the other thing about it is the dynamic between these 2 slot guys. Kirk is not like and Ibuka's not really either. These are not guys that are limited speed-wise. They got decent speed. They're not slow. Christian Kirk damn sure isn't when he's healthy. So I'm open to the 2 wide receivers in the slot, the 2 slot guys. If you like Burton, I'm down with that too. Like the kid from Iowa State, I'm down with that too. It's something where these guys have both been in situations where it's been highly valued. Matter of fact, I'm almost intrigued to see some sort of creativity. Like, there were probably people in New England who said, you can't run 2 tight ends that often. You can't run 21 all the time. Historic tight end duo, Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski. And before that, they had multiple slot guys, and they continue to do that. We saw it with the Rams, with Woods and Kupp, and then Kupp and Puka and all that. So yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm very okay with the Ibuka situation. I'm actually more intrigued by it now than I was before after doing that. So I understand the Kupp pushback. But I'm now 100% on board with Ibuka. I think he might slide. I think it's possible. Opposite of iron sharpens iron, Gucci sharpens Gucci. Not bad. Not bad. Raphael asks, wide receiver over Cam Scatterbo. You're a running back guy. I asked Scatterbo, and I say I asked him. It wasn't like a press conference where someone says I asked this. No, it was by himself. He visited with the Texans informally. Don't know if he's going to formally visit. I want a running back. I don't know if Scatterbo is going to be good in the NFL. I'll be honest with you. I know that he always gets slept on. It's probably better for him to get slept on because that's the thing. But I don't know if this guy's going to be good in the league. Am I being too harsh? He was athletic at the combine. Didn't run the 40. He had 40-inch hops though. But I definitely want a running back. I don't like at what point in the draft are we talking? Are we talking day 3? I don't think Scatterbo's a day 2 guy. Maybe he is. I don't know. Evan Swarm in the soup. You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
He says, give me a Ibuka or Burden, then fill in round 2. Yeah, is Burden a round 1 guy? I've seen some guys, like the guys that I respect the most, have him around 2 to 4, and the wide receivers. The wide receivers really, the 2 to 6s never really look alike, but it's the same types of names. But I don't know if we're going to see. It's going to be interesting to see where the second wide receiver is taken. I think it's safe to say McMillan's going to be first, right? Like, there's not going to be a fall there, is there? Cody said if he had the number 1 pick, he would take him. So he's a big fan of his. I don't know that he gets past 10. But, I mean, we always see wide receivers kind of slip. Could we see McMillan's slip? I don't agree with the notion that you can find running backs in the later rounds. I don't. I think that's a dated philosophy. I think day 2 is the gold mine. I've been talking about this since COVID. Like, go back to COVID. I was begging for them to draft Jonathan Taylor or Dobbins. But like the notion that you can just find one late. I mean, sure, you can find one to contribute because these guys get hurt and multiple guys play, but let's just look at the leaders in rushing last year. Let's just look at these guys. Saquon, he was a first rounder. Derrick Henry was a second rounder. Bijan was a first rounder. Jonathan Taylor was a second rounder. Gibbs was a first rounder. Jacobs was a first rounder. Kyron Williams, I think you kind of found him a little bit late. He was a 5th rounder. So there's one. Chuba Hubbard later. He was 4th rounder. And they're still adding backs. Aaron Jones, he's later. Bucky Irving, Connor. So there you go, like right there. But like the elite, Joe Mixon, 2nd rounder. James Cook, 2nd rounder. I think you got to invest in the position. And the crazy thing is, a lot of these teams that already have backs, they like to draft them. They like to still draft those backs. That's the beauty of the whole thing. But yeah, I don't know about the fine like that, the Jawar Jordan type thing, all that. That's interesting. Someone asked about Trey Harris. When's he supposed to go? He might fall to day 3, right? It's always kind of interesting evaluating guys from like that type of offense. But he's kind of a day 3 guy, isn't he? Nathan Palmer, Travion Henderson. Yes, all day. Hell yes. I don't think I'm starting to get like the notion and the feel. And you often see this like after day 1 where running back value really becomes extreme. Like I feel I could easily see, I don't know that he gets past the Raiders with Chip Kelly. Like all those Ohio State kids at the combine, they were talking so highly of Chip Kelly. Like I almost wonder if Chip Kelly has to get like a couple of these Ohio State guys. And the other thing is, you pay an offensive coordinator $7 million, he's going to get to have some sort of say, right? Like, I know it's a dangerous thing to give Chip Kelly full control of your NFL personnel. That doesn't end well. Although he did win 10 games in his first 2 seasons. Kind of wore out his welcome in season 3. But I'm starting to get a feel that like one of these Ohio State dudes or something like that, like Chip Kelly's going to want at least 1 or 2. Could be some guys later on. But yeah, I'm a big Travion guy. You know the name they throw out. And you always got to take that with a grain of salt because every effing year there's someone compared to Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. Ends up being Gosh Allen and LaFar Jackson right here in the AFC South. LaFar Jackson, Anthony Richardson, and Gosh Allen, Will Levis. But they always throw out the comparison. But the comparison that everyone's throwing out with Henderson is Gibbs. Do with that what you want. But he's that type of explosive. So we'll see how that is there. Evan says, I think Kupp is a bad investment, in my opinion, too much. You don't have to say your opinion. I feel you. It's obvious it's your opinion. Yeah, I mean, I can see the counter of that. Like, how much is it? I've heard 12, 15. Yeah, I mean, if you think he's washed and you don't think he's good, then I would agree with it. But if you think that if you think he's close to what he was, then it ends up being kind of a steal. The other point, and Stoots brought this up, is we don't like to talk about it, but Nico gets hurt every year. There's 1 year where he missed a couple games, but he limped off the field in another, so pretty much 3 games. Christian Kirk's been hurt the last 2 years, and then you have Kupp kind of banged up, so that's kind of danger zone there. But yeah, I completely understand that. Gavin King says, I would love taking Hampton in the first. Don't threaten me with a good time. I like Omarion Hampton a lot. He said that he met with the Texans. He told me that Joe Mixon was the guy that he would like to is the guy that he would like to pair with. And he also he's also one of the top 2 backs. I'm a big Omarion Hampton guy. You ain't gotta convince me on him. Let me see this. Okay, yeah. He brought him up twice unsolicited. And I thought it was kind of interesting. So I asked Omarion Hampton at the combine about Mixon's game, and this is what the exchange sounded like.
What do you like about Mixon's game? You mentioned him a couple of times. Have you met with the Texans?
Yeah, I like his game a lot, just the way he plays and stuff like that. Just he's a contact. He loves contact. He can make a miss. He can really do everything. Really.
Have you met with Houston?
A little bit. I talked to a few of those coaches. Yeah.
All right, so I did kind of think that was interesting because the interesting thing about that for me was that he'd met with him and he talked about wanting to pair with him. So I wonder if that was something that they kind of discussed. I don't know where this guy goes, but there's been some like hipster draft people that are saying that they have him as RB1 over Genty, which I think is insane. I think that's a little much. But I mean, it happens in the draft where a lot of times the guy that gets the hype isn't there. I like Hampton. If they took him in the round 1, I wouldn't be upset. I think the offensive line can make the running back, will make the running back can make the O-line better, and you can still address other things. We saw Mixon do it quite often. They need multiple backs that can make plays. But I think a lot of people would be pissed off by it. But I'm just so pro running back that I'm okay with it. Gavin also asks or says, I know mocks are educated guesses, but I saw a mock of Houston trading up to 12 with Dallas to take Tyler Booker. I hate it. Your thoughts? Man, that's early, man. Like that is kind of terrifying because that's just kind of like deja vu. If you trade up again for an interior offensive lineman, and there is the element of Abuka, Travion Henderson, they just sound a lot like what the Texans value and what the Texans like. But if you're going from 25 to 12, there's a strong chance that you're giving up one of those second-round picks that you have in the next few years. And if you're going to do that for an interior guard, like we've already made I don't even think it was a mistake, but when you're going to take a guard that early, I know we talk about positional value. He better be good. And you just whiffed on Kenyon Green. Trading up for a guard at 12, that would be a toughie. It could end up playing out well, but man, that would be a tough pill to swallow. I think Booker might get into the second round, quite honestly. I think he's good, but I think he might get into the second round. Like, I think he might be on the best available list after round 1. You trade up and take a guard at 12, and you still have the tackle and wide receiver issue, and you're trading draft equity, that's tough.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Shout out to Swaggy J, HDAV Traveler, LaFar Jackson, a.k.a. Quitter, a.k.a. IRS, Anthony Richardson. Poor guy. Hurt himself dancing. Gavin again. Shout out to Gavin. Appreciate you, my friend. The thought of 2 explosive 3-down backs and Mixon's replacement gets me excited thinking about it. Yeah, I mean, in the last draft, they drafted Blake Fisher when it didn't seem like it was an imminent need that they needed tackles. So thinking ahead is good. I just don't think they value the backup running back position. It kind of bums me out because as much as I talked about the slot guys earlier on, like, man, just look at what the Patriots did with running backs. Like, they were always bringing in guys. They drafted Sony Michel in the first round. They got Woodhead. They used him. They got Burkhead. They at one point they were trading for Corey Dillon. One year it was Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis. Like, they were just all at James White was like a freak out of the backfield. Like, they just always had like just all these random ass running backs that you didn't know what the hell was going on. And I'm almost starting, and this is weird, I'm almost starting to look at like the Patriots offense and saying, okay, I don't want the system to be as complicated as it was with O'Brien. And I know we kind of fell in love with the Kubiak system, but if it really is a hybrid, that's kind of a dream for me because from a personnel standpoint, just the unpredictability, like we're talking about big names. Like, I mean, who the fuck was Danny Woodhead? Like, there was like that bit where Danny Woodhead was like working at Dick's Sporting Goods or something like that, and no one even recognized him. And then you still have running backs, so you take Sony Michel, and James White is just a freak show out of the backfield. Like, it's cool that you like Dare Ogunbowale, and it's cool that he does good things on special teams, but I mean, when I see what a lot of these teams have, and even San Francisco where D'Amico was, where you had McCaffrey, you had Elijah Mitchell, like you were using Deebo Samuel out of the backfield. Like, you're settling with Dare Ogunbowale as a running back, which is fine. He's reliable, but I mean, at some point you gotta get multiple backs doing multiple things. We even saw it with Philadelphia. We see it with Kansas City. Like, Kansas City, they have multiple backs. Like, they brought in Kareem Hunt. He was just thumping fools. Pacheco goes down. He's back in. They got P. Ryan. Like, they got a bunch of guys. Like, the Texans have Dameon Pierce returning kicks. And they have Adari Gumbawale coming in there and picking up a block and getting basically a game ball for just knowing the playbook. Like, even the Eagles, they signed A.J. Dillon. They want some power. So, man, get me some effing running backs and get me some receivers. The O-line, it sucks, but figure something out there. Figure something out. Raphael on the soup. Keep the content, bro. Haven't listened to that 10 a.m. show since you left. Figgy, the only good one left. Yeah. I've been doing this content since like 2 years before I left 610. And it was actually in my contract that it was my own thing. And they allowed me to do it. So yeah. I only listen. I'll listen to Sean and Seth. That's really all I really need. Like, as far as stuff, Figgy's the best in the world at what he do. I don't need like the football analysis though, but yeah, he does his thing. Shout out to him. But yeah, they're just yeah, it's not. There's an insult of the and it was a discussion there, and you got me on this with the thing, but they think that the listeners are stupid. That's a quote. And there's been times where there hasn't been preparation, and what's gone on over the air, I think, is an insult to intelligence and a reflection of not putting in the appropriate amount of work and stuff. You can go back and look at draft day and the day after when there was tardiness the day before and after. But the notion was always like, hey, he's saying, blah, blah, blah. And it was, well, our listeners don't know any better. And maybe that's true because not many people are listening. It's gone down. But I think that we've gotten to a point where listeners are smart, fans are smart, and all that type of stuff. So, yeah, I love Reggie. I love Reggie. Reggie's a great guy. He's a smart guy. He deserves better. But yeah, I like Reggie too. Very good guy. MH Wheat Nation says Miller Blue might be the best running back combo we've ever had. Wasn't it Tate and Arian? I mean, that's an easy one. It's Tate and Arian. Miller Blue. Let's go post Arian. We always got to go PA because if you just have Arian, you're good. But post Arian, Miller Blue. Carlos Hyde, Duke Johnson. Like if we're going post Arian, like the best running back duo that we've had. But Foster Tate for sure. We're going PA. I would go. It could be Carlos Hyde, Duke Johnson. You could say Miller Blue. Like Pierce and Singletary really weren't a duo. Remember when you had Ingram, David Johnson, and Phillip Lindsay? God. And they all scored a touchdown in week 1 against Jacksonville? That was hilarious. Remember that? I think Ingram, Lindsay, and David Johnson all scored touchdowns week 1 against the Jags. It was so funny. But yeah, they really haven't had depth at running back at all. You're correct about that. But the GOAT is Tate and Arian Foster. No doubt. Phillip Lindsay works in Denver. Yeah, Phillip Lindsay was awesome, man. He had a lot of energy. He's a god there. I thought it was fast. I was talking to some people in Denver, and they're like, "How's Phillip doing? How's Phillip?" I was like, "He wasn't that good." Oh man, that's a shame. Because he's like a Colorado legend. So shout out to him for doing his thing. We got to pour one out, man. This sucks. This hurts. Moment of silence. The career of Jon Weeks as a Houston Texan. Johnny Weeks, friend of the show. He was on the stream. He was one of my first guests. He was on this show. My boy Johnny Weeks. He gone. And they did him wrong with this picture. Now you got Grant Cohn laughing at him. San Francisco not pumped. You got this Ryan G. Hensley cat laughing at him. 49ers have officially signed 39-year-old long snapper Jon Weeks, per the team. Now you got these comments. Backup cop from a TV show. He's definitely got that dad strength. What? They cut their deep snapper for him. Needle mover. He's way better and smarter than Taylor. Consider the needle moved. Are they effing with us? Is this April Fool's? They are seriously trying to kill us as fans. So Jon Weeks is getting passion from 49ers fans. That's a little bit much. That's a little bit much. But I will say, in fairness, we have an attachment to Jon Weeks. But if the Texans sign a 39-year-old deep snapper and he looked like Jon Weeks, and Jon Weeks has always been a guy that just feels like he can still go to HEB with the fam and blend in as well as he can. I would kind of mock it a little bit too, if we're being honest. But I'm actually proud for Jon. Very happy for him. And I have nothing but love for him. I actually reached out. To old Weeks today. I didn't talk to him like after the season because I knew it was kind of a weird transition type of thing, and we don't talk on the reg. I told y'all that he gave us the grill to auction off. But he said, I told him congrats. I know they'll love you there. He said thanks. He's a little bit disappointed that things worked out this way, but he's excited as well. He wanted to end his career in Houston. Let's just be honest. He wanted to end his career in Houston. A little bit disappointed, but excited as well. And then I told him you escaped the cruel part of this game more than 99.9%. You have nothing to be sad about. You're going to be great, and hopefully they revive stuff up there. So hopefully San Francisco's good. He said, grateful for you. It was always a pleasure to shoot the bleep with you on the radio and in the locker room. All the best to you and the girls. Keep in touch. And I just said, another elite franchise wanting you at this point in your career with no connections, comfort, or nostalgia is something that you should be amazingly proud of, and add that to your list of one accomplishments. You're blessed. Tell Amanda, hey. He said, really means a lot. Thank you. So, yeah, good for Weeks, man. Like, you got to admit, that's pretty damn impressive. Because I don't know how to tell if a deep snapper's losing a step or not. I didn't see any bad snaps from Jon Weeks. I didn't see him like getting trucked in coverage. I don't know. They know. So they get a little bit younger. It's maybe a little bit cheaper on the O-line. But I don't know. But I think it is. I really do think it's impressive when you're 39 years old. A lot of people say, oh, he's a long snapper. There's only 32 of those in the league. It's like kicker. There's not really a backup long snapper on most teams. Like if you lose your long snapper, you're calling in someone that's just basically on standby that you don't know. So there's only 32 of those gigs. You're 39 years old. There's no nostalgia. There's no attachment to you. And what's been one of the most successful teams in the league recently before this down year, they want to bring you in. I think that's an accomplishment for him. I think he should be very, 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 very proud of himself. I think Jon Weeks should be very, very proud of himself. So shout out to Jon Weeks, salute to Jon Weeks. And this is nothing to put your head down about. The game speaks to a lot of guys in a lot of ways. You're 39 years old. You're the longest tenured Texan. You're great in the community. You did your thing. And I think this is an accomplishment. The fact that San Francisco thinks enough of your game, which I can't evaluate. I don't know anything about the long snapper. That They respect you. So shout out to Jon Weeks, friend of the program. Respect to that dude, Jon Weeks. Seriously. Now people say Ring of Honor. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That might be a little much. You might be on that
high-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
if you say that. I don't know though. You never know. Like when he got the accomplishment, I saw Cal and Hannah wearing the jersey. Maybe they do a little favor for him. I don't know. But even if he's my boy, that's a little bit much. A little bit much. We ain't going that far. We ain't going that far. On the soup, swarming to the soup.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Jay. Shout out to Jay. My man, right? That's some good seats, brother. That's some good seats. Good Lord. Man's feeling it right there. Those are those ones where you kind of hope. I'm just like, you can see where his seats are. It looks like he's like between the 5 and the 10. But Jay asked someone to take the picture for him. Perfect picture right there. That's profile picture worthy. But those are the seats where it's always fun when like you're in the end zone because you're like, the first thing is you want them to be going your way in the second half or in the fourth quarter. So you want them to be going your way in the fourth quarter. The other thing is when they're driving and it's like the end of the third and they're going the opposite way, you want the clock to run out so that you're like right in the middle of the action as the fourth quarter starts going your way. That's always my favorite thing when it comes to like sitting in the end zone. Is just kind of like the mental battle of, oh God, I hope they're coming my way. Pause. But I hope they're trying to score in the end zone that I'm at. My best experience of that was section 24, row 39, seat 1, Rose Bowl, Pasadena. Vince Young. I was in the corner of the end zone where Vince Young ran in. It was sick. It also happened to be where Reggie Bush did that lateral crap. Michael Griffin had the intercept. It ended up being like just the perfect, like all of the time that me and my pops put into UT football. Like it was perfect, man. Those end zone seats are sick. I love it. Absolutely love it. Kind of a battle that goes to that. Jay asks on the soup.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
No, where this is coming from. Thoughts on Chat Sports Texans Jeremy Chugs? I don't know the guy. He seems like a nice guy. I know that whole headquarters is in Dallas. I've never seen him at the place. I've watched a couple of videos here or there. It seems like there's a lot of like crowding the comments and stuff like that. But I don't watch it consistently. It seems I don't know. It doesn't. I don't feel like I'm learning anything. I feel like it's a good summary and it's a good production value of it. But begging for like comments, hey, throw a tomato at me or something like that. It doesn't do anything for me because I'm here. I cover the team. I know the squad and stuff like that. But as far as just like a production and trying to get some stuff going, it's great production value. I'll say that. I don't think he built the channel either. I think it was another guy who also did like multiple teams. So I don't know what to really say about that. So yeah, that's like I don't know what to say about it. It's not informational for me. It just seems like kind of a summary of the local stuff. But hey, yeah, I think he works hard and he's doing his thing, and I think he's connected. But it's out there in Dallas. It's a studio, and there's guys doing like multiple stuff that's out there. So yeah, I'm not really. The only reason I answered that is because it was a super chat. But yeah, nothing terrible to say. It just doesn't go with me. Doesn't bring me any information. But yeah, Jon Weeks, R.I.P. He's not dead. He's still alive. But yeah, shout out to him. Who should I follow in addition to Landry, Stoots, and Seth? On here, I think you're good. Like if you want Texans, I think that's good. Get it all covered. I like to see sometimes what the national guys are. I like Gruden's channel a lot. I think it's good, especially like the in-season breakdowns. I don't know if he's just using it like because Dion was with Barstool for a little bit, and then he kind of used it to kind of elevate, which is good. It was mutually exclusive partnership where they both benefited. I think Gruden's channel is great. I heard he's bringing back QB camp, which was my favorite thing. So I would say Gruden's channel is excellent. I think Grant Cohn's hilarious at San Francisco. He's even way more of a jackass than me and just obnoxious, but he has like the background. He has like a nice balance of journalism background and covering the squad. I think he's kind of like the standard of like content type of guys, just a different guy. So I kind of like following his stuff. But yeah, I would say me and Stoots got you covered individually and then our channel. And I think if you want to go like in the trenches, I think Seth is perfect at it. It's not just clips. It's a lot of breaks. So me and Seth get along very, very well since I left the station. And we've actually gotten a little closer. I didn't really like him for a while. And a lot of it was my fault. A lot of it was his fault. But I have a lot of respect for Seth as a man, and I've always respected his football mind and stuff. And I think I think sometimes he's too hard on himself, and sometimes, I think he lets the outside noise get to him. But I think he's a great guy, and I have a lot of respect for Seth. So I'm actually pretty cool with him. So shout out to him. Good dude. Got to get Seth on SNL. He has his own stream. I would ask Seth. We're getting John Harris, so we're gonna have a draft stream. Harris agreed to come on my channel, but because Harris agreed to join my channel, but because I'm such a team player, I'm gonna make it like some sort of like draft extravaganza with Stoots, and I think it's gonna do numbers because Harris just likes to hang out and chill. So, I mean, if Harris wants to be Night Owl, then he'll do this, and I'll just bring Stoots in too. But we'll get him. Oh, Ruben, Mr. 713. Yeah, I love Ruben. Yeah, Ruben, you gotta follow Ruben. Ruben's my dog. No disrespect there. Ruben's my boy, man. Ruben is like the gutter, grungy ass, like true, like fan, like authentic, like party. Yeah, Ruben and Harley. I like both of those guys. So shout out to them too. But yeah, Ruben's my boy. He came into the station when I was there, and he actually had the YouTube channel for a while. So yeah, I love Ruben. I think Ruben's a great guy, especially like in season reacting and stuff. So yes, I think Ruben deserves a lot of love too. I love Ruben. I didn't mean to skip over him. So shout out to shout out to him. Yeah, Seth is a funny guy. Yeah, he's when he goes off, it's funny because he goes off and then he almost feels guilty about it, but it's like, dude, it's okay, man. Like you don't have to be too hard on yourself. Like the passion and the stuff is good. He does his thing. So yeah. Raphael says, do you ever consider a music bed during streams? Not really. The problem with music beds and like we have background music on the StreamYard, so you can do it. They have their like own like built-in ones. Like you can go, what do you want? Do you want some rock? Do you want some Into Space? Do you want Feeding the Ducks, Daydreaming, Dance Pop, Acoustic, Cinematic? It's all like so dry. Hey guys, let's talk Texans. Hey, you doing? We on the night shift. I'm your host, Landry Locker. Let's rock out with our cocks out here during free agency. Now, the other thing about it is like the good beds, a lot of times you'll get like copyright strikes. Not copyright strikes, but like just warnings. So like music is really kind of a sensitive thing here. But no, I haven't really thought about beds. I did during radio segments, but yeah, I'm not really into the beds as much. But I feel you. I am a big bed guy. The Got High bed was always my go-to. Afro Man Got High bed. I just think it's a good vibe when you go throughout. Not because of the
high-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
just because I think it's a good vibe. So I enjoy that. But yeah, not really that. Stoots got pissed. Anytime you start something with that, I'm on this. Stoots got pissed the other day that Kaimi talked LMAO. I died laughing, but back his view because Kaimi won't be easy to replace. All right. That was not my fault. As a matter of fact, let's just kind of revisit this. And I'm glad you are bringing this up. But I just want to go to the tape here and just say that sometimes I think sometimes I get appropriately labeled an instigator, but sometimes I think I unfairly get labeled an instigator because I was accused of adding fuel to the fire on this Cody Stoots. And I'm glad you brought this up because I was going to let this go. But let's just bring up, it's one of the biggest disagreements, quote, in the history of SNL. I'm going to pull up the channel on SNL. So here we go. Dom in Jersey, he buzzes into the show and he brings up Fairbairn. It's random. They just traded for Christian Kirk. He brings up Fairbairn. So we read it because it's a soup. And then Cody gets all randomly pissed off. And all of a sudden, because I'm an instigator, my reputation follows me. And all of a sudden, I get blamed for this. But let's check the tape. Let's check the tape. I try to move on immediately from this topic because I am the one that sits in the A chair with me and Cody. And that's my background. So I try to keep it moving. Cody's the one who will not let it go. If you don't believe me, just watch the tape. Look at this. If he wasn't talking about it, he's like, oh, man.
I don't know.
I wanted DK, and we got this guy.
He sends out an anonymous or he sends out a vague tweet once every 3 weeks. So I don't.
Maybe he's disappointed. Dom in Jersey.
Right, here we go.
Shout out to Jersey, Jersey Shore.
I have nothing to do with it.
Hey, yo. How come the Texans fans love Fairbairn? He misses so many give me kicks and extra points. Doesn't want to play in the cold. He sucks. Why are you mad? He's mad at Fairbairn now.
See, I don't even want to talk about it.
On the day of a slot wide receiver acquisition, Dom in New Jersey's over here trying to get rid of Kaimi Fairbairn. What's going on?
All right, so here you go. Let's keep it moving. I'm trying to keep it moving.
Christopher says,
look at this. I'm going to the next chat. He still wants to go.
I'll say this. There's a lot of teams that would bend over backwards to have Kaimi be their kicker.
I don't know about bend over backwards. That's a lot.
There's a lot of teams that wish Kaimi was their kicker instead of the guy they had.
So
still, he brought it up again. I'm still trying to keep it moving.
Christopher says,
how about scores?
And look at this. He's yelling. How am I instigating this? I tried twice, not once, but twice. 1 time, 2 times, LeBron James, 3 times to move on. And then he gets mad.
Some touchdowns, and you don't have to rely on the kicker as much anymore. How about that? How about we do that for once? How about you throw the ball to a slot receiver that can actually stay healthy and get open? How about we do that? We don't have to worry about Kaimi kicking 40-yard, 50-yard.
Why is Cody defending Kaimi like this, like to the death? I didn't know you loved him like this. What's going on here?
I'm not defending him.
You're getting mad. This is
you can't do anything about it. He's the kicker. He's the kicker. You can't do anything about it.
It's pissed off about Kaimi.
You're complaining about something that is unfixable. He's the kicker. Move on.
This is a different vibe than we've been on. You're mad about Fairbairn?
He's the kicker. Move on. It costs more money to cut him
than to
keep him. Move on. He's the kicker.
Move on. You said move on 3 times. I tried to move on 3 times. He's still going. And I'm getting blamed for instigating.
Kicker next year. Sorry.
Wow.
How about we stop worrying about the kicker because the team's going to score some touchdowns?
Wow. I can't believe this guy.
I don't know how you consider that to be a defense of Kaimi Fairbairn.
Well, how was it not?
How about you stop?
He said teams would bend over backwards for him. Now he's still mad. Here you go. I'm just saying, how is it not? I'm still trying to get to the next comment. Look at this.
Putting the kicker on the field. How about you just score?
He's like
How about
Johnny
you don't have
Cochran.
one of the worst red zone teams in football?
He's like Johnny Cochran with OJ.
Yeah.
My God. Good Lord. Christopher Thornton. Still think we should trade for Cooper Kupp. Maybe that might be his opinion. Hey, I think because of the Stephon Diggs dead cat.
Don't give a damn about Kaimi Fairbairn.
I know you like Fairbairn, but hey,
we moved on. Now look at this.
Diggs dead cat, but hey, who knows? I did not know you like Fairbairn. By the way,
dude, I'm telling you right now.
It's just a quick mention, and I'm still trying to move it. This is Cody's fault. I'm not taking the blame for this one. This is like Rasheed Wallace getting a technical for doing nothing. This is
I don't give a damn about Kaimi Fairbairn, but you'd be pissed if you had if you had a worse field goal kicker. And I'm saying this, how about you just score touchdowns and don't have to worry about the field goal kicker?
He missed
What about when they have then go score another touchdown.
What about when they have the best drive of the season and he misses the extra point, so you're not tied and it takes away all the momentum?
Well, then okay.
Now I'm pushing it.
Okay. How about you're able to score more than one fucking touchdown? How about that?
Yeah.
How about you don't have the 28th? How about you don't have the 28th red zone offense in football?
You know what Cody's doing right now that I think is hilarious? That's like one of my least favorite things. Here's what he's doing. Here's what Cody's doing. And this all happened because Dom brought up the Fairbairn thing. He's not the biggest problem. He's not the biggest problem they have. That's exactly what you're doing right now, except you're still not doing it. Why are you so mad?
Problem.
I got to play now.
It costs money to get rid of him. He's the kicker. Move on.
Yeah, but they're cheap. They're cheap. Like if you find a rookie that you like, you can do it.
So
I don't want to move on. Well, I don't want to move on, but I don't like your explanation. No, but your explanation sucks.
It costs more money to move on. You can't. You're not changing the kicker. Move on from the conversation.
Your explanation sucks, though.
Your explanation sucks.
Why do you like Fairbairn so much?
I don't like Kaimi Fairbairn, but it costs more money. I would rather keep the money than actually have to worry about.
You've said, why don't you
move the fuck on? How about that?
Okay, so you're not. Right. So we're not going to talk about Shaq Mason or Titus Howard. Doesn't it cost some money to get rid of them?
No, it doesn't cost you salary cap space, dumbass. Jesus, how hard is that for you to understand?
Are you mad at me or Dom?
It costs you cap space to cut the kicker. Don't do that. That's bad football.
All right, what about the guards? Chase brings up a good question. What about the guards? We need you to calm down. So let's talk about offensive guards. We don't even need to talk about receivers.
Oh, shut up. Why don't you just act logical for 1 minute?
That was not my fault. I gave him 4 opportunities to move on. I think that's a reputation thing. I think that's a reputation thing that I was getting blamed for that. I think that was as much Stoots or anything like that. It's my boy, though. My boy. Cody, do you have any people in your life where it's like, God, I don't want to make you mad, but it's just so funny when you get mad? Cody's got passion. He's got some fire about the kicker. I mean, it was a frustrating experience with Kaimi last year. He's getting put on this pedestal, and then wasn't there for you. He was there. Next stream, you should have the 2 of you react to you reacting to that stream. Nah, that'd be bad. That'd be bad. This is late night, so you can do that. Sometimes that's bad. Yeah, he got fired up. I don't know if I fired him up. I feel like he was fired up without me. I feel like he was fired up, and then I just said, all right, I might as well play along. Cody loves Fairbairn. Fairbairn's hated now. It's crazy how much people will turn on a kicker. These guys are so unappreciated. They're very important. They're very, very important. It's funny because I think kicking's like a golf shot. I think sometimes it would be good from a longer distance, sometimes short. You got to factor in wind. There's timing. It's not even like your own timing because you also have to time the snap and stuff. So I actually think it's like the equivalent of a golf shot. I know Kaimi's kind of a golfer, but it's funny because maybe it's just because football naturally has like a meathead nature, but it's almost looked at, oh, you got one job. Okay. Like you could say that about a lot of things, but it's not, I don't think it's as easy as a lot of times it gets made out to be. It's a struggle watching these guys. And I don't know that a lot of these guys are built the same way as football players. They're kind of like soccer guys, kind of out of place. But I think it's funny how just an all-time like Texan like Fairbairn is like, I would say he's probably like top 5. Who are the top 5 most disliked Texans right now? Give me your list. Let's think about this. Because I just try to base it on like what I hear in the streets and like just from like fans. Like, who would you say are like the top 5 most unpopular Texans right now? Tunsil was on the list because of the false starts. But if we were saying like the top 5 least popular Texans that are the most frustrated, Fairbairn's top 5. People are pissed at him. So I would say Fairbairn, maybe Titus, Schultz. Schultz is up there. God, Schultz gets the people upset. So I would say Schultz, Fairbairn, Titus. I don't think there's anyone on defense. That might be it. I think it's Schultz, Fairbairn, Titus. That's it. Okuda's gone, though. He's a free agent, so he's not even here anymore. Yeah, you get Schultz, Ward. I like Ward, man. He can't stay. That's not his fault. Mechie, someone says. Tommy Townsend, he had some good moments. Nathan says Fairbairn over Chris Brown. Hey, he's the best kicker in franchise history. Chris Brown, you know how good of an athlete Chris Brown was? I don't think y'all have any idea. Because he's a kicker and you just look at him and you say, oh, man, he must not be very athletic. Chris Brown's a freaking legend. Like in DFW. Like a freaking legend. Like, look at this. Let's see what we got with Chris. Okay, I'll make this bigger. Chris Brown. Let's look at this. Let's look at this high school career. Look at this. Brown was a 3-year starter at kicker and a 2-year starter at quarterback for Carroll High School in Southlake, Texas. That's a powerhouse. That's where Quinn Ewers came from. That's where Greg McElroy came from. Chase Daniel, Scott Chandler, the old wide receiver, LJ Humphrey. There's a lot of guys from there, and they've won a lot of state titles. But this was before they even got big. He led the Dragons to consecutive 16-0 records in a 3A class state championship in 92 and 93, starting at quarterback for the team. He served as captain for the Dragons as a senior and connected on 16 of 18 field goal attempts in 94. He earned first team all-district, all-Northeast Tarrant County honors, and all-area honors. Brown was named an All-American kicker by All Midlands. In Carroll High School's first ever 4A playoff game in 94, he kicked 4 field goals, including a long of 50 yards. And the unranked Dragons defeated number 2 Waxahachie 26-3. The following week, he was knocked out of the game in the first quarter with a concussion, and Carroll was eliminated. So he went down. So this dude's like playing quarterback and then going back and just kicking bombs. Dude's an effing legend. So, yeah, I would say Fairbairn at kicking, but Chris Brown is a freaking monster. Bo says on the soup, oh, hilarious today. He says, I came across your YouTube short of ragging on Lopez about bringing his fishing pole on the plane. What a dork, LOL. No, I don't blame him for bringing his fishing pole on the plane. I would probably be scared to put my fishing pole through baggage claim. I always wonder about people's golf clubs and stuff. But yeah, he likes to fish. So yeah, I was just kind of giving him a hard time because I think he was like kind of carrying it there. But I don't blame him for that. At all. Come on, we're hating on Jared Wayne because of that one thing. Golly, he's not ever going to escape that, is he? He ain't ever going to escape that, is he? There's a subset of fans who would die for Mechie. Are we doing this again? Are we really going to do the Mechie thing again, you think? That is like the favorite local storyline. Yeah, the Ward, Jimmy Ward, I don't look at him as hated, but my God, like, what were they doing with that extension last year? What was that? Was that just like a favor? I thought this was like a cold, hard business. Just throwing the extension. We're going to bring him back? It's a lot of bodies there. What if Jimmy decides to be like more of a nickel and reserve safety guy? Because you don't save a ton of money. Maybe we figure that out. Who would you keep, Mech or Hutch? Hutch. All day. Anytime Mechie has a catch, it makes the 10 o'clock news. Yeah, it makes big news locally. Ain't no doubt. I want CJ Gardner-Johnson to come through here. For sure. How does the Gardner signing affect Jalen? I don't think Jalen's going to be affected. It might affect Jimmy more, but Jimmy, they just might look at as a reserve safety and say, come on back. And move him back to safety instead of having to play nickel. And then you'll have three guys in Jimmy, Jalen, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson who can play nickel. Say what you want about Jimmy. He's elite at that. I think he's better at nickel than Jalen is. And I thought Jalen did a hell of a job last year. I don't think teams really fully tried to take advantage of him in coverage. I thought it was weird. Maybe I'm just a little bit too close to the situation. I don't think they tried, but I thought he did an excellent job. But they won't get rid of Jalen. Jalen will be here, I think. Jimmy, I mean, maybe you keep those guys. Maybe it's the safety depth. I mean, maybe you've already kind of made your bed in that situation. And Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's kind of a guy that like lowers what you expect from Jimmy Ward. I think that's possible. It's not going to be like huge savings. I don't know how Jimmy's doing. He was wheeling around at the end, and he seemed like he was in good spirits. Seems like he's doing better. He takes care of himself. I mean, he takes care of his body. He just gets hurt. But as far as being in a nickel, that's a mofo. He's better than Petrie. We saw like immediately when he stepped in there, he had the pick six. He was an NFL top 100 player 3-4 years ago playing that nickel. He's nice there. And he's got experience playing corner and safety. Just gets hurt. That's what happens. I mean, he's double digits into the league now. Been around, seen a lot. But no, I don't think Jalen's impacted. I think it just gives you a lot more options as to how to handle that. I don't think Petrie's better than Jimmy Ward. I don't know what you're basing that on. He was graded as the best nickelback in the league the year before he came here, and you watched him play when Petrie went out. He had the immediate pick six. He was making plays near the line of scrimmage. Jimmy, like at safety, he's going to stick out like a sore thumb, just like Petrie did. But I think Jimmy's better than Petrie. I didn't even think that was a hot take. And I thought Petrie did a good job. Jimmy's great at that. He's elite. He's very elite. But to act like that's a thing, Jalen's got a ways to go before he gets there. Ways to go. See if I can pull this up. Yeah, there you go, right here. Right here, Jimmy Ward, 96th. 96th ranked player, and you saw what happened to him. 96th ranked player in the league. Nickel. Yeah, I don't think that's crazy. I mean, you act like I just said John Mechie's better than Nico Collins or something. He's great at it. Like, he's really effing good at it. MH We Eat Nation, is Okudah still on the team? No. He is not. Raphael.
Hey, yo.
He says blob. Baby Legion of Boom. We're pushing that for sure. I think that's kind of what you got. You got a really elite secondary. Peachy's going to be great. Focused on what he was great last year. Jimmy Ward is elite at nickel. Like it's not an insult. I know Jimmy Ward, like when we watch him at safety, there's some blunders and stuff. Jimmy Ward's elite at nickel. Like he's incredible at nickel. He was brought here and he was basically like a negotiable with him and D'Amico that he didn't want to play nickel anymore. So he was a safety, but the emergency situation called for him to be out there. So that's what happens. It's far from an insult. If Jalen Petrie can be as good as Jimmy Ward at nickel, you have one of the best nickel backs in the league. I think we got to see what happens with the coverage. But he's elite at nickel. Jimmy Ward is great at that. What's British Brooks' role? I don't know if he makes the team. I don't know if they value the fullback or not. I don't know what he does. Special teams, I mean, I feel like they got like 50 special teams linebackers now. So I don't know if a fullback running up and down the field on special teams has as much value anymore. Maybe they're asking tight ends to do a little bit more. Maybe we see a little bit more Stover lead blocking. I anticipate that he is going to. I think Cade Stover is gonna be back and he's gonna be jacked.
Every day it's just me and a pile of iron.
At Nolan Ryan grown man strength. So we'll see where that goes. I don't know if Brooks can catch well enough at tight end. They had him playing some tight end. He was working out with the tight ends. I don't know if he can catch good enough. He was a good story last year. He got hurt, but yeah, I don't think British Brooks is. If you put a gun to my head and you said, does British Brooks make the active roster next year? I would say probably not. I don't know what you want him at tight end. What's that going to do for your tight end position? I don't know about that. Yeah, Stover's country. I think he was a little bit homesick last year. But all he's going to do is lift weights this offseason. He's coming in jacked. Cade blocked all right. Probably needs to improve that. That's going to be a big part of his focus. Would I draft Nick Eamon-Wari if he were there? Not now. I thought it was a possibility, but I think Gardner Johnson's young enough and brings enough to where, I mean, God, like you want to talk about kind of an awkward situation. If you draft a safety at 25 with everything you need and you already added Gardner Johnson, I mean, that would be weird for all parties involved. So I was on board with that before. At this point, no, thank you. If Brooks was good, he would have got more playing time. He had a season-ending injury, my friend. Yeah, he wasn't benched. He had a season-ending injury. He got hurt. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. We're probably going to do a little mock draft tomorrow. Y'all talk me into it. Always remember, though, when it comes to this Texans stuff, we're all in it together. Let's pour one out for our boy, Jon Weeks. Be sure to like the video. Be sure to subscribe to SNL. Appreciate y'all for coming through.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize. Every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked.